All right. I think this is an appropriate verse to speak on today because today is World Enlightenment Day. Do you guys know what that is? Yeah. So, what we do basically on World Enlightenment Day is try to give out knowledge to all the people, all the general mass of public. So, literally this morning at about 8 a.m., we had boxes and boxes of Bhagavad Gitas and all our other spiritual books, and people were lined up, devotees were lined up, taking what they needed to go out and give this to others. So there were some people who went to hospitals, some people went to the streets, wherever they could. And it's just so amazing to see this type of mood of coming together as a team, as a unit, as an army, and going out and fighting, not with weapons, but with books, with knowledge. And so those are our weapons of choice, and they don't kill your. Our weapons don't actually hurt your body, but they destroy your false ego. So that's the power of these books. They evaporate this tendency of thinking of I, me, and mine. And I had this realization today while going out and distributing books, because when we go about our day, normal motions of life, there's so many moments where we are concerned and engrossed with ourselves. What's going on with me? How am I doing? And then the mind comes in, and then there's this negotiation talk, and pretty soon you feel kind of depressed. It just happens. And when you go out and do some selfless service and distribute books or preach or serve out prashadam or whatever it may be, just any type of spiritual activity, for that moment, for those few hours, no longer are you thinking about I, me, and mine, but you're thinking about them and how can I serve them and how can I help them. And it just puts your mind on a mental break, and it allows you to really just like feel that moment, feel that presence of, wow, this is so nice. I get to just go out there and help others. So that's something really incredible. And I think the more and more we can masterpiece our days with these types of ingredients, then we will really feel the fruits of benefit. We will truly feel nourishment and satisfaction. And you see amazing experiences going on as well with this particular service of book distribution, because you meet all kinds of people. Like today, I had this little kid who came to the book table, and he was just checking out the books. But his dad was there, and his dad saw the Bhagavad Gita, and he said, "Oh, this is the Bhagavad Gita. Can I have it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, actually, today we're giving these books out to those that want it." And he said, "You won't believe this, but my little kid is the one who's telling me about this book, Bhagavad Gita. Somehow he has this genius kid. He's like 7 years old, and he heard about the Bhagavad Gita, and he started telling his dad about the Bhagavad Gita. And so his dad happened to be there today, and he took the book, and he told his son, look, we got it now. Let's do like a family night or whatever it may be, reading night. Might be a little heavy, but I think they can manage." So that's like really cool just to see that going on. And when you get to distribute books, you also tap in to the most essential fundamental principles of our teachings of Bhakti Yoga. Because what Bhakti Yoga is basically teaching us is that we have to become more personal in our life rather than impersonal. And you see this all the time in society. We don't like it when somebody's impersonal with us, when somebody doesn't respect us, somebody doesn't treat us nicely, etc., etc., it really shows in that person's behavior and character. Like when I was growing up, one of my first jobs was working at AT&T, and I would be in those cell phone booths in the malls, and my job was to basically call people over and try to get them to get a phone. It's the same thing I'm kind of doing now, but it's with books instead of cell phones. Before I was trying to upgrade their service, now I'm trying to upgrade their consciousness. It's kind of similar and trying to give them a better frequency. But I remember that there were a lot of what do you call it, like sales associates, my employees, my co-workers, that were using this impersonal technique where when somebody would come, they wouldn't show them the proper respect. They would kind of not treat them as a human being, not really treat them as a person. And myself, I kind of cringed at that. Like, I can't stand bad customer service. And there's other things that make me cringe, but that's a side topic. But just to mention, I also cringe at bad parenting. Like it really drives me crazy. Because sometimes you have a kid who comes to the book table and he's so excited to get the book, and then the parent will come and he'll yell at the child, say, "Put that down, like get away from that table," or whatever, and "Come on, let's go." And the child will be like, "Why? They're free," and he starts crying, and it's like, man, my heart really goes out. So there's things we need to do in life to really improve life and improve family and relationships and just become more personal and become more empathetic and have compassion. And that's what these books kind of teach, that we have to move away with the false ego and become more compassionate towards others, become more instruments of compassion. And by becoming instruments of compassion, we will have more harmony in this world. We will play more beautiful sounds, sounds of devotion, uh, melodies of love, rhythms of just understanding peace and well balance. So it's really encouraging on this day, World Enlightenment Day, to understand this mission that we have. Because there's two types of monks out there, or there's two types of spiritualists out there. There are those that just focus on themselves and want to just elevate themselves. And then there's a higher platform where they want to go out and help others. And you see this in life, that whatever, like nature, it doesn't like things that are idle. It likes things that are moving. Just like I gave this example last time, but I got my arm and it's has a muscle, still growing, but there's a muscle there. And if I just tie it up with the rope, then all of a sudden it's out of use. It starts to turn blue. But if I work the arm, then life supplies it all its nutrients. In the same way, if we become idle bodies, then life doesn't really give us what we need. But if we use this body for service, for higher consciousness, for spreading, for going out there, teaching people what we've learned, then we actually get the proper nutrition that we need in order to just teach people about this food of thought. And I think it's really cool just living around a temple community or being around spiritual minded people, because I remember when I was growing up and I had normal friends, and the questions I used to receive was, "Hey, you check out that sports game last night? You see that ball game? You see how much you scored?" Like, these were the questions I was being asked. But now the questions I get asked, somebody comes up to me, they'll be like, "Prabhu, would you like to share your realization today?" I'm like, "Whoa, yes I would." And that's really cool, just having that, because we grow as individuals. And there's two types of mindsets in this world. There's a fixed mindset and there's a growth mindset. So the fixed mindset, they just believe that this is just how things are and I can't change that much. And this is the course of my life, and there's nothing much I can do. But the growth mindset, they embrace challenges and they really want to grow. They want to experience life more. They want to put themselves in the unknown. They say no pessimist has charted an unknown land, meaning that you have to become optimistic. You have to have this feeling of growth in order to go out and really explore. And as book distributors, as preachers of the Sankirtan mission, as individuals trying to help Srila Prabhupada, we are in that growth mindset that we want to expand. We want to give this out to others. And that's really amazing. We see so many cool things lately happening in the field of book distribution. I remember when I was first distributing books in 2013-14, I would use backpacks and I would kind of approach people. And we had all these code words with book distribution. So if we felt like a security guard was on us or was on one of us, we would text everybody like, hey, Yamaduta coming. And everybody would be like, oh, Yamaduta coming. They'd hide all the bags, all the stuff. And security guards was like our worst fear because they basically shut down everything. But now we're using book tables, and about a month ago, I had all these SUV cop cars just going around my table. I'm like, man, what's going on? I'm about to get like set up or something. I was really scared. And then like all these cops get out of the car and they're like rushing to my table. I'm like, man, I'm about to get blitzed. And they surround me, and I'm like, oh man, this is it. Like, I'm going down. But basically, one of the cops, he says, you know, my wife, she's telling me that I need to get into yoga more. Do you have some like yoga books? And then the other cop's like, yeah, I need to meditate. Where's your meditation book? And then there's this fat cop, and the fat cop saw this cookbook, and he was like, oh, I need this. I need to change my life. Please, can I have this book? And so, yeah, we're distributing books to police officers now. So this is the miracles that you see on Krishna conscious missions, on adventures. Krishna consciousness is an adventure, and it's the best adventure to be on, because then life would just be kind of boring. Like, I take these walks sometimes in the evenings, and you can peek kind of into the people's homes and apartments, and all they got is the TV on. And you know, it's like in Vedic culture, the deity would be in the center of the house, but in modern culture, the TV is the center of the house. So the TV is like their deity, and it's not giving them the right type of nourishment they need. Instead, they're becoming more and more polluted, more and more absorbed. The music that they hear is really messing with their consciousness. And we can see that the music that we hear on the radio, directly we see that out on the streets. So we need to go out there and use our talents in Krishna's service. They say when you join the Lord's army, then eventually you come into his arms. So that's how we have to live our lives, simply for the pleasure of our predecessor acharyas and for the pleasure of Krishna. And we get a lot of inspiration when we hear stories of Srila Prabhupada and what he's gone through, all the things that he's done. It's so encouraging and so enlivening that we become inspired, and we just can't help but do what we can to help others. So we've been starting a lot of different things, and you guys have been kind of part of it. We have the Mantra House program, which is really cool. It's packed house, and we probably need a bigger location now. I don't know what the future is going to bring, but it's in the works, and we see the change that's happening in people's lives. Like, there's this one college student named Jason, and he's been coming every week, and slowly but surely he's already understanding the principles, and he's volunteering his service. So he's a videographer, and right away he's shooting all these video clips and piecing it together, and nobody told him to do this. He's just doing it himself. And so the other day, Hari Bhakta Prabhu, he gave him his first set of beads. And I called Jason the next day in the morning, and I'm like, hey, I heard you got some beads. And he's like, yeah, I just finished my first round this morning, and I feel like my life has changed. So it's really cool. I feel like a grandpa or something watching these little kids like raise up. It's very nourishing to the heart. And Srila Prabhupada is the ultimate father, and he's been spreading seeds of love to all of us and seeing us all grow. So that's really cool to see. And we just feel indebted to this mission, and we feel indebted to Lord Krishna. And so that's why we chant Hare Krishna. The Hare Krishna mantra literally is asking the Lord, please engage me in your service more and more. I just want to be engrossed in this, just like what this verse is saying today. 24 hours a day, we want to please the Lord. And when I first started chanting Hare Krishna, I really didn't understand how is it that I'm just chanting these words and these words is actually giving me purification. It was kind of foreign to me. And I mean, I grew up my whole life chanting, but I still didn't understand the logic or the science behind it. But through time, I just grew a lot of faith. I really saw the changes going on in my own life, so I could see that this is actually working, even though I can't see it right away. Just like a bamboo tree, when you plant a bamboo tree for the first few years, I think you don't see anything, and you're just watering and watering it, and nothing actually comes up. And within the last 60 or 90 days, it just shoots up out of nowhere, and it becomes this huge lush garden. So in the same way, we might not see such a change as we're chanting, but if you look at your life back a year ago or 2 years ago and see the change, you can see, whoa, this is really amazing. And Krishna is present, he's alive, he's within everyone's hearts. And I really fully understood this chanting and why I'm chanting and how it's giving Krishna pleasure by watching the Los Angeles Lakers. So pretty much I was a monk for a few years, still am. And in that time, I turned off my TV, turned off my radio, turned off everything from society, and I didn't know what was going on. But previously, I was a big fan of Lakers and music, etc., etc. So one day I was just walking down the street as a monk, distributing books, and somebody said, "Man, Kobe, he's done for. He's retired." And I was like, whoa, Kobe retired. And as a monk, I was getting tempted not to take part in this, like understanding more and more about it. But I couldn't help it, and I just had to see what's going on. Kobe Bryant retired, so I went on Google and I saw Kobe Bryant retired, and then there was like this 3-minute clip of his last game, and I didn't want to press it, but then I read this verse where you can see everything in relationship to Krishna, because everything is connected to Krishna. So I'm like, okay, I can press it. So then I pressed it, and I saw the last 3 minutes, and it was amazing. I don't want to sound like a sportscaster right now, but I think I am. So there was 3 minutes left, and pretty much they were down by like 14 or 16 points, something like that. Fourth quarter, big game, home game. Everyone is just like, the whole building is filled with stars, celebrities, artists. I mean, it's Kobe Bryant's last game. Everyone's so excited, and they were down by 14 or 16 points. So pretty much everyone was cheering on Kobe, and he actually scored 40 points up to that time, and that's a lot to score for your last game. And they really wanted him to reach the 50-point mark before the game was over. They knew we're not going to win this game. It's like it's hopeless. But then Kobe goes into Kobe mode, or should I say Krishna mode, and he pretty much ends up scoring 60 points, ends up winning the game, doesn't miss a shot. And there's this verse in Bhagavad Gita that says, Raso Ham Apsukonte Ya Prabhasmi Sasi Surya Ho Pranava Seva Vedeshu Shabda Ke Purusham Nirshu. Pretty much that last part, Parasham Nishu, that means I am the ability in man. And I literally saw Krishna inside Kobe Bryant playing this phenomenal game for his last performance. And that was so incredible to see. But then, I mean, can you imagine this? He wins the game, he scores 60 points, and it's his last game, last moment, 20 years of playing, and he's about to retire, and there's 20,000 people surrounding Kobe Bryant, and they're all chanting, Kobe, Kobe, Kobe. And it's like, when you have so much love for somebody, what more can you do than to chant his name? Than to just say his name and show that type of appreciation. So here we are, Krishna, Krishna. You know, we really feel a lot of love for Krishna, and that's why we chant his name, because we want to give that love back to him for everything that he's given to our life. And so we should know that nothing is separate from Krishna. Everything emanates from Krishna. He is the source of it all. And anything beautiful we see in this world, whether it's the oceans, the mountains, the trees, whether it's different human beings, it's all coming from Krishna. And by having this type of vision, this type of realization, then this world becomes really beautiful. Srila Prabhupada, he said, for a devotee, this world is not, it's a wonderful place, because you can start using everything in Krishna's service. And just like if you have a diamond, and if it's on a silver platter, then it doesn't look as beautiful, or it doesn't stand out as much as if that diamond was maybe someplace else, like on this red seat, or maybe on the grass, because it stands out more. So in the same way, Krishna, in his spiritual pastimes, he's like a diamond on the silver platter. Like, it's nice, it looks really wonderful, but it doesn't stand out as much as if Krishna coming to this material world, because this place is full of darkness and Krishna is full of light. So by him coming here, we really get to see some of his most amazing pastimes. And when we take trips to India, you can feel this spiritual surcharge. It's just emanating all this type of positive enthusiasm. So it's really cool to just be part of this mission. And I think another thing that gives a lot of hope in this world is this phrase called pay it forward. Have you guys heard of this before? Pay it forward? Yeah, so what happened was, the other day I wanted to kind of improve more so my public speaking. I'm doing more and more of it. So there's this place called Toastmasters, where you can go and they actually work on your public skills, speech skills, etc., etc. And this lady named Sandy, she gave an 8-minute speech. And what her speech was entitled was called Pay It Forward. And she related this story of last year when it was Christmas. She was eating with all her friends at a restaurant, and then the table next to her had this huge family. There was cousins and brothers and sisters and old people and young babies, and they were just having a good time. And then this lady Sandy and her friends, they thought, you know what, let's pay that person's bill. And so they went to the manager and they said, hey, we want to pay that person's bill. And the manager's like, what, are you kidding me? Did I hear right? I haven't heard this in like 40 years. And they're like, no, we want to pay that person's bill. So they paid the bill, and the family was just shocked. They could not believe this, and they haven't seen something like this in the last, I don't know, decade, 2 decades. You just don't see something like this happen these days. And so Sandy left with this very warm feeling in her heart that money can't buy. And that's the power of paying it forward. And I've experienced a similar thing in my life. One time I was at a grocery store, and there was some problem with my credit card. I don't know what was going on. So I couldn't buy the dates and the nuts that I wanted. I eat a lot of dates and nuts, by the way. It's like the best. And especially if you mix dates and walnuts together, I mean, wow, it's like bam. Anyways, that's just like a commercial. Going back. So I was buying these dates and nuts, and I really wanted them, and I don't know what was going on with my card. I don't want to be there, call up, and make everyone else wait. And out of nowhere, some lady behind me, she was like, I got that. Don't you worry, boy. Don't you worry. You have your dates. You have your nuts. You're gonna enjoy today. I got you. I got you. I'm gonna pay that for you. And I was like, wow, that's just incredible. And I personally don't see that much in life in general. So a moment like that really stood out to me in my life, and I still remember it to this day. But what happened was I was buying those dates and nuts because I was on my way to go and distribute books. And we just got this brand new book. It was called Inner Yoga, and it just came off the press. There was only a few left, or there was only a few made, and it was kind of expensive. It's $15 or so. So it's not a book that you can just give out freely. And I set up my table after I went to my book distribution spot, and there was this college student who was looking at all the books, and then she saw the Inner Yoga book, and she was really into it. And she said, how much is this? And I said, well, it's $15. If you can, just do your best. And she didn't really have anything. And I was just remembering the incident that I just experienced at the grocery store. So I told her, you know what, I want you to have this. This is on me. And she remembers that to this day. She still writes in emails and to me and says, thank you so much for this book. She comes here now. She eats at our restaurant. And just small acts of kindness go such a far way. So we should fill our life up with this because, again, it's something money can't buy. And the more we do this, the more we become personal in our lives. And that's the whole understanding and goal of Bhakti Yoga, is to become more personal with different people that we deal with whether it's elders, seniors, juniors. We just have to become more loving and reciprocate in that way. It's helped me get out of a lot of situations that can seem a little tough at the time. There's places where when you distribute books, by distributing books, it's actually a real battlefield. Like Srila Prabhupada calls distributing books a battlefield, but I never understood it fully until distributing books. Because there's three things in this world that kind of cause edge to people. And that's morals, number two is ethics, and three is religion. Like you can talk about anything, but when you get into those subject matters, it can really cause fights, disagreements, even death. So it's a very touchy subject. And one time I was at a college campus and I gave somebody the Bhagavad Gita because he looked like a really cool guy and he was walking all slow. And I was like, man, this guy looks pretty awesome. So I gave him the Bhagavad Gita, and he basically looked at it, and it was even a hard copy, and he just threw it back at my face, like really fast. And that whole week I was meditating on kindness, so it was a real challenge for me, because normally I would flare up, like, hey man, what you trying to do? Like, get up to him. But I just folded my hands, and then he started speaking. He said, you know what, this book is completely bogus. This is all false doctrines in here. This is all fake. You're spreading lies. And then he went into another tantrum, and he started talking about how Islam is the only religion. Islam is the real faith. Islam is the truth. And this is all just complete nonsense. And so this was the situation. We're in the middle of a college campus. There's this guy throwing a Gita at me and talking very extreme. And here I am trying to be humble, but inside I'm totally flared up. And so I just took a moment to pray because of my intention for kindness that I was praying the whole week. And so I got some type of inspiration somehow. Before I joined living life as a temple as a monk, I used to be a music producer. and I would take all these different sounds and melodies and instruments from eastern parts of the world and mix it with the western parts of the world. So my whole iPhone that I had on me was filled with all these cultural sounds. And I happened to have something on my phone called a nasheed. And a nasheed is like an Islamic kirtan. It's an a cappella, it's very uplifting. If you translate the lyrics of the song that I had on my phone, it's the same meaning as the Hare Krishna mantra. And so, as he was super angry, and I realized this man is an extremist. It's very, we see what's going on these days in the world, and I was thinking, how am I gonna handle this situation? But then I said, "Oh, you're from the Islam culture?" And he said, "Yeah, Islam, Allah's the only God, you guys are all going to hell, etc., etc." And I said, "You know what? I love your culture. I think your culture is absolutely beautiful." And he said, "What?" Like that kind of changed the thing up a little bit because I'm starting to be a little more personal. I'm not creating division. I'm trying to bring unity. And I said, "Yeah, I love your culture. I think it's one of the greatest cultures ever." And you know what? I have a nasheed on my phone. And that's where he lost it. He couldn't believe I had a nasheed on my phone. So I played it, and you can imagine the scene. There's this college campus, there's thousands of students, and here I am playing this very melodious nasheed coming out of the phone. And his eyes almost started to moisten, and he took back the Gita and he said, "You know what? You're making such an attempt to learn my culture. Let me make an attempt to learn yours." And he took the Bhagavad Gita. And I also had an Arabic book with me at the time as well, so he took that as well. We have the BBT Arabic trustee in the house, so I want to mention that. So again, the elements we're talking about today is personalism, developing this bhakti, having more friendship with the world, having more kindness in the world. This is what pleases Krishna. It's not by our false austerity or false renunciation. We have to really become instruments of compassion, develop more love, and then truly Krishna will be pleased. And when Krishna is pleased, the whole world is yours. The gates open up, this world becomes a playground. You can take any material object and you can use it in Krishna's service. Just like they got this king, his name is King Midas. You guys heard of King Midas? It's King Midas and the golden touch. So anything King Midas touches, it turns into gold. So you can be a devotee with the spiritual touch. Anything you touch, it can become spiritual, and you can use it in the proper way. And I think that's one of the greatest philosophies out there. You don't have to give up all your material possessions. You don't have to act puffed up and just think that, "Oh yeah, I'm so renounced now." No, you have to develop love. And when you develop love, then you're truly renounced and you truly understand the elements of Krishna consciousness. So just to recap, I talked about how we need to have masterpiece days. We should really implement intention, and we should really set our day up so that we have more and more awareness. And then we spoke about how we should pay it forward, have more kindness in our lives, be kind to others, do a random acts of generosity, and see what it does to your life. And we talked about the inspiration that Srila Prabhupada gives us by going out on the limb. When you go out on a limb of a tree, that's where the fruit is. So when you go on a limb with devotional service, you will find the real nectar, the real juice. And we also talked about how book distribution changes people's hearts, from the police officers to the extremists. It's such a wonderful activity. It's simply trying to purify people's consciousness. And by living a life like this, we are truly living a life. So I want to thank everybody for being here, and hope to speak again. Hare Krishna. Does anybody have any questions or comments that they want to ask, possibly? And if you don't have any questions or comments, maybe I can ask you two, since you guys were here since the beginning. What's something that stood out to you, something that you remember from the class that you would like to share? Yeah, I'm actually writing a book right now, and it's called Be Personal. And so that's why I'm just fired up with this whole personalism topic, because I think it's essential for success, whether you're in sales, whether you're a parent, whether you're CEO. By implementing this element of personalism, your life can really change. And I have a chapter in that book called Kobe Krishna, which talks about the Lakers and the connection to Krishna. And I think people might kind of dig that. So I'm glad you remembered that. Yeah. What about yourself? Mm, mm, right. Yeah, yeah, it really is. Our life truly becomes transformed. Like when I do book distribution, I meet maybe 300 people a day. And I'm not always on my game. Sometimes I'm a little off. So by meeting 300 people a day, 200 of them can be incredible encounters, and one of them I can mess up on, and I wouldn't have my full attention. There can be some bickering, and when I go home that night, I don't even think about those 200 encounters. I think about that one, and I'm praying like, why did that happen? I wish I can go back in time. So just by understanding that, and like I said, there's a few things in this world that make us cringe, and one of them is bad customer service. It's just horrible to see that. And another one is bad parenting. It's really horrible to see that. So we should really transform ourselves so we can become examples in other people's lives. Because that's the best way to preach ultimately, is by becoming an example. Our words don't really have so much power. You know, heart holds the words hold potency when the heart holds purity. So by truly transforming ourselves from within, then we can start to really impact this world in a big way, in a big scale. Yeah. And there's these three S's to success. Like if you see the word success, there's three S's. And for me, those three S's are sadhana, sangha, and seva. So sadhana is having that group of people around you, the spiritual association. Just like I was mentioning before, when I was living a normal life, the questions I would receive is, hey, you check out that game last night? Or did you hear that track? Or hey, did you see how much points he scored? But now it's like, Prabhu, what is your realization? Please share your realization. So the question has transformed, and this is the power of Sangha. And then sadhana, they say, if you don't want to be sad, do some sadhana. So by having a spiritual practice in our life, by having this type of exercise, just like it's so important to exercise the body, but we should also exercise our mind. It's just as important. And another analogy is given that something we do on autopilot, I hope, every day is we shower. We have to shower because why do we shower? The body is dirty. But we don't realize that when we wake up, the mind is also dirty. So we should also shower our mind. And we do that through sadhana, by having spiritual practices. And lastly, seva is when we save the world, when we go out and give service to people. And that's what's going to take us from false ego to true ego, and make us truly understand that I don't want to just live for myself. I want to help others. I want to go out and give this knowledge to others. Not just knowledge, but just go out and be a friend to others. Because by being a friend, that's the true way to give the knowledge. And by just implementing that element of bhakti, then we are living the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, great. I think we got a few minutes and then the doors are gonna open. So thank you very much for being here. Hare Krishna.